Hey guys, welcome back. I'm excited for this week because I feel like there are just times when we really struggle to get over a person. Look, we've all been there before. It is something that we all have to go through. It's called heartbreak. Right now, you're probably hearing from family and friends, hey, can you just please move on? Hey, he was a jerk. Hey, you can do better. Of course, they mean well, but you and I both know it doesn't work like that. But this is a little bit more difficult than that. So before we even go any further and we really dive into all of this, welcome. My name is Stephanie. I am a life and relationship coach. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've been helping people heal from narcissistic abuse and really rebuild their life. And what does that mean? We're talking about all areas of life. We're talking about confidence, self-esteem, healing past trauma, healing past wounds, really working on your ability to set goals and actually achieve them, because that's what it's going to take to be able to get over this person. So if you are new here, please click that subscribe button, and also don't forget to click the little notification bell so you can be informed every week when I do upload a new video. We are diving into a ton of topics this month, and I am super excited. I am so motivated to get you guys going before the year ends. I don't want to get to January and we're just working on resolutions and really rebuilding our life and working on ourselves. No, let's do that now. If you guys are a longtime subscriber, then you know the drill. You know that we're gonna educate, we're gonna motivate, and we're gonna give actual tips, things that you can start working on today to help move yourself forward. The first thing I'm gonna tell you is, if you are not grieving, if you haven't even done any grieving whatsoever, what are you waiting for? Like, girl, let it out. I'm talking about the anger, I'm talking about the sadness, I'm talking about everything that you could possibly feel regarding this person needs to be expressed. I think most of us grew up with the mentality that it is what it is, and yes, it is what it is. But before we can get to that very, very logical statement, we have to do something a little uncomfortable, and we have to go through our emotional state first. We can never just hit logic and just boom, we're over it. We have to go through our emotions. And that's why you get stuck, is because so often you're trying to think your way out of something instead of feeling your way through it. So the first thing I want to tell you is you're going to have to grieve, and you're going to have to do this over and over and over again. So if at any point you feel stuck, it could be that maybe you just haven't let yourself grieve. I know a lot of us get stuck in this space. I think I was there. I think everyone who's been in any kind of toxic narcissistic relationship can say that they were in love with a character. So the fantasy sometimes of who you thought this person was is what you're actually still kind of craving and mourning, and that's the reason why you can't really move on. It's almost like this person didn't die, clearly. They're still walking the earth. So what's the problem? What happened? Why can't we be with each other? You were so unbelievably amazing. When this happens, it usually happens when something really drastic has happened in the relationship. So you're gonna deal with two scenarios. You're either gonna have scenario one, where you were living in a little bit of a fantasy and then all of a sudden you just got discarded completely out of nowhere. That's trauma. That's gonna shock the system. So you're not mentally, you haven't caught up to who this person actually is and what they were capable of doing. You're still like behind everything, behind the situation, thinking that you're still in this relationship. And that's why mourning and grieving the wrong person, the fantasy person, the character person, happens so often in these types of situations. Scenario two is when you got everything in the beginning. It was so incredibly amazing. And then slowly over time, they started to kind of like jab at you, make you feel bad, try to manipulate you, try to gaslight you. And because that was happening in very small like increments, you didn't know any of this was going on. You're like craving to get back to that like honeymoon high, amazing phase of the relationship that you were once in. They usually call this cognitive dissonance, where you're comparing these two scenarios. You're like, wait, you used to be this person and I want to get back to that person. So you're struggling to really accept who they are now because you're still comparing them to who they used to be. When you go through a narcissistic breakup and it happens really drastically, you are not going to have closure. So I don't care if they just discarded you, if they cheated on you, if they lied, betrayal, if they just like completely walked away, or maybe not, maybe you were having problems in the relationship and then all of a sudden they just broke up with you completely out of nowhere. You're never gonna get closure from those scenarios. Usually when a breakup happens, you have two people that kind of come together. Maybe they agree that the relationship isn't working, or maybe one person just says, I'm just not happy, but it's not done in a really hurtful way. When you're dealing with narcissistic breakups, especially discards, there is no thought involved, there is no empathy involved, there is no thinking of what this could possibly do to you and how it could impact you whatsoever. So when that happens, what you're dealing with is a person who's going to downright hurt you. They're going to hurt you for a few reasons. Either you were not the person that they wanted you to be, meaning maybe in the beginning you looked at them in a certain way, you put them on a pedestal, and then over time you started to like see who they were exposing themselves and you didn't like it, so you started holding them to a standard. You wanted them to be a little accountable for themselves, and they had absolutely no interest in that. And over time, they didn't really like it so much. So now they're going to start punishing you. Sometimes this punishment is in the form of just keeping you hanging on and keeping you involved in the relationship. And sometimes the punishment is a straight up discard. Unfortunately, in this scenario, you're never going to get that kind of breakup hug, that I wish you well, I'm so sorry this didn't work out. And even though you're heartbroken and you're sad and you're really going through a breakup, there is some element to that person being human that at least makes you not feel so incredibly hurt. You're hurt because obviously you're ending a relationship, but you're not devastated. When you're dealing with a narcissistic breakup, it's a devastation. It's either going to be a long, slow road of abuse where maybe you wake up someday and say, I just can't take this anymore, or a slow road of abuse that maybe you never do anything about it and you just allow the abuse to happen over and over again. And maybe they eventually get sick of you, throw you away, but then maybe want you back and you kind of play that game. Or you're just gonna deal with a person who doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. And that is gut-wrenchingly painful. You see, because when we crave closure, especially from someone that we know we're not gonna get it, like for me, I logically understood very quickly that I was not going to get the I'm so sorry for everything that I possibly put you through. I can't imagine what it felt like to be you and going through that scenario or going through this or having to deal with this. I knew that was not going to happen, but on some levels, your ego wants to hear it. And we think that just by hearing, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake, I have issues, I'm a little messed up, like to hear any of that, that it would actually make us feel better. It will make your ego feel a little good for a short period of time, but you're still going to be living in heartfelt pain. The pain is not gonna go away. If anything, I feel like at times it would almost make it worse. Like how horrible would it feel? Like, yeah, it would feel nice to be able to have like a human conversation with that person. I would have loved to have had some kind of a human conversation with my ex-husband in the very beginning, but that was not going to happen. But I think honestly, if it happened, I really, really feel like it would have just made me feel even worse, because then I would have really toyed with, well, what's the problem? Like, what's the problem then? If you know you have issues, if you know that this wasn't okay, if you knew, all day long and you could take accountability and like even own your part in the relationship and what you did wrong, none of that stuff happened. None of that stuff happened. But if you actually had that kind of a conversation and you had two people that were kind of owning it, why can't a relationship work then? It's because one or two people do not want to work on themselves. And you kind of have to accept that. Then, of course, I started to understand what closure was, what forgiveness was, and like all of those things, moving on and letting go and everything. And then it really, really solely had to do with myself. I realized that I didn't need the apology. My ego needed it. I realized that no matter what this person said, they weren't capable of actually giving me those words of affirmation, like giving me that peace. They weren't capable of even giving it to me. So if they weren't capable of giving it to me, then I couldn't really expect it or really crave or need it, because I'm at the mercy of them being able to give me something in order for me to move on. Not gonna happen. I think we can all say that we have struggled with codependency in these relationships, and that is why we really lose our sense of self. If you lose your sense of self and you are struggling with codependency coming out of this relationship, it is going to be a devastating loss to you, and you're gonna really struggle to kind of get over it and move on, because this person was like air to you. I mean, they gave you so much. They gave you validation. They maybe affirmed you here and there. They honestly probably gave you the bare minimum, even below that line, but we won't go there. They gave you what it was that you needed in order to feel good inside, because it wasn't something that you were doing for yourself. what most people don't understand is we look so much towards that person, that narcissist, and we learn these words like narcissistic supply, and we understand like, oh my God, I was supplied to them, like I was feeding into their ego, feeding into their low self-esteem. Guess what? They were also supply for you because you were craving something, and perhaps you didn't get it from them, but you were still craving something from them. So they were just as codependent in a way on you as you were on them. You're just dealing with two people who seek their supply in just different ways. A narcissist will be a taker and a codependent will be a giver. So let's think about this for a second. You're in this relationship, you've gone through a breakup, whether you've done the breakup or whether you were discarded and they broke up with you, and now you don't even feel like you have a sense of self. You've kind of lost your identity throughout that relationship. You're going through a divorce, you're going through a breakup, and you're back to your own devices. You're alone now. And while there are a lot of things that you kind of just have to transition into, right? Transition to like going to the grocery store by yourself and being with friends and not having that go-to person. And I can just feel the tears pouring down your face because I have been there and I know what it feels like to have to admit to myself that now I'm alone again. And it is a crappy feeling, especially when you just had something, and especially when you thought that something was gonna be something or it was gonna evolve into something. And that makes it 10 times worse. So believe me when I tell you, you have my whole heart right now when I say, I know this is painful right now, but I promise you things will get better. Because what you are learning right now are your addictions to toxic relationships. Like, I want you to fully understand why you were so into this person, why you were able to fall in love with this person, why you picked this person, why you thought this person was the one. Like, what were the things that were going on inside of you that drew you to this person? That's the stuff that we need to work on, and that's what we do on this channel. So you guys, thank you so much for sticking around, watching this whole video. If you are one of my ride or dies and you're still here, please drop a heart down below, give me some love, let me know that you're still in this with me. And please, I hope you took notes. Watch this again if you really need it for anything, tips, validation. In order to really get over this person fully, you're gonna have to let yourself grieve. You're gonna have to really work on your having a solid sense of self. And in this week's podcast, we're gonna be talking about how to really rebuild that sense of self. So I will link that down below for you guys to go check out as well. You can follow me on social, courses, services, coaching, working with me, all that stuff is linked down below as well. I hope you guys are well. Thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.